Okay, Commissioner, Sunday, January 31st, 2021. How are you? And I guess we'll jump right in. What's happening?
And just like that, the whole month of January gone. That's why we're kind of wearing blue to signify the end to domestic minor sex trafficking month. Raising awareness to that is one thing, but really knowing what the department is doing is another. And Tammy Sneed wrote a wonderful article for the spotlight that you all just put out on the end of Friday. So please, 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 to our regulars and those of you who are joining us today, check it out. There's some good stuff in the spotlight. What else do you have in the spotlight, Ken?
Yeah, so Commissioner, as we all know, the Spotlight on What's Right is our monthly newsletter we put out where we really celebrate and highlight the positive, proactive things the department's doing. So this month, we use the theme Embracing 2021. And we have a message for you where it highlights what we are planning to do and the major initiatives and case practice changes for 2021. But we also included a piece on the highlights from 2020. And I tell you, when you take a step back and read them, wow,
You
all
guys
that
are
we
doing some
did,
great work out there.
some
Great,
great
great
work,
work
some
under
great.
tremendously tough circumstances. And so today's, video is also going to highlight some of those tough circumstances that people have found themselves in while trying to conduct the work of the agency. We've just took a few minutes to highlight some things that we found during our contact tracing that we thought might be helpful for other people to hear too. Um, one of the things that you need to know is that we have extended the moratorium on age outs, or what we consider children that are older youth in care that are either passing from care because of age or due to non-compliance. We don't want
Right.
that. We know that everyone is struggling, and our most vulnerable, meaning our teens and our babies, really need our attention now more than ever. So one of the ways that we're doing that is to extend the moratorium on 800s and on hearings to separate kids from our care until September. We need to get them through the summer. We need to get our arms around them. We know sometimes that population is a bit tough, and the extended, prolonged nature of the pandemic has rendered them really tired and COVID fatigued. And we know that they sometimes engage in risky behavior, which means that we really need to lean in a little bit more as opposed to backing away. So you'll see a memo that goes out explaining that to those of you who have our older youth in care on caseloads. And just a reminder for those of you that have our little kids, those also need our attention. So all hands on deck when it comes to our vulnerable populations.
And as you said, a formal all commissioner memo is going to come out tomorrow on Monday. But the moratorium on discharging youth due to non-compliance or due to age is extended through 9/30/21, and that's effective actually retroactively to January 1st. So real
Yeah,
important
yep,
staff know that. Real important.
yep.
So you mentioned the term vulnerable youth as you were describing the moratorium. We have learned so much from our COVID contact tracing
Yeah.
exercises. We've learned a lot of themes, and I think I'm going to pull up on our screen, really a number of them that we can walk through to help staff understand what we are seeing in our work. So hopefully everybody can see that.
Yeah, we can. And, there have been some really positive staff actions out there. People wearing their masks, people staying socially distant, people staying away from congregating inside offices. But these are some of the themes that have come up that even in the course of our contact tracing, when there are COVID positive staff members, we have found that there are some things that we could be a little tighter on. There was a staff member who actually was wearing two masks, an N95 and a surgical mask, and making sure that the child she was transporting also sanitized before and after getting in the state car.
Yep.
And then, reminding young people, we've seen this a lot of staff reminding kids of not the kind of hugging, because our kids, really want to be excited to see their workers, but keeping their distance, and to keep their mask up above their nose. You see people all the time that, kind of pull it down. That's not really protecting them.
Yep.
And other things we saw, a staff member kind of uh, notifying that there was a household that really didn't have the right type of PPE. And so the staff member kind of contacted the supervisor when they were made aware of somebody that was positive, and really I'm kind of conflating two stories. There was one that staff member kind of contacting saying, people in that particular household weren't wearing PPE, and so getting some guidance about what to do in those situations. And then the last bullet there was a facility staff member who was made aware of a positive in his personal life, and then immediately took steps to leave the facility to make sure that his transmission footprint was much smaller. Some other things to consider was the fact that we have in recent weeks been talking a lot about the use of face shields, and making sure that staff carry face shields when they're going to be in the field, particularly when they're going to be interacting with little kids under the age of 2, because they can't wear masks. So making sure that along with the surgical mask staff are wearing, that you carry a face shield with you if you're around a child that is not wearing their mask consistently. This will help protect the staff and the child if transmission were to occur. Another issue that has come up quite a bit, Ken, is the sanitizing of cars. And we've talked about this again, that if you're going to be using a state car, the cleaning solutions are kept with the car keys and not in the cars. We have temperatures in the single digits this weekend. And so any of that stuff that's left in a car just does not render it as potent as we need it to be able to kill off the coronavirus. So you want to make sure that you're taking the sanitizing solutions from the inside of the building out into the car, and you're cleaning the touch points before and after use. We've also sent some reminders through the foster care division about kind of helping our foster parents remind kids that are going to be transported with us about their vigilance in terms of wearing PPE and their masks. Also note that we don't see sometimes that the triage process includes whether or not staff members have any symptoms. What we're finding in some of our contact tracing is that staff after the fact say that they had a symptom that they thought was benign. I didn't think anything of it when I had a little scratchy throat or a headache. And then later learned that those were some of the very early signs of the virus or having contracted that. We also were seeing that staff were coming to work if they were awaiting the results of a test, and we don't want that to happen either. So they should contact their HR representative to talk through what their options are. And really talking through with your supervisor, if you have symptoms, if someone else can conduct that visit for you, any symptom slight, no matter what, you want to talk that through with your supervisor so we can make the right decision about limiting our transmission footprint.
Mm-hmm. So, Commissioner, we all receive these updates periodically during the week. So I think that staff, as they're watching the video now, will be provided kind of a comprehensive summary of what we're seeing every 2 weeks about really positive actions of staff, points to consider, ones in which we're determining is there a practice or a policy change, and then areas of concern. So just like we learn from our case practice, we're going to learn from our practice of our staff as well. So stay tuned for more updates as they come available.
And the thing that we really have to emphasize is that, because we're going to talk a little bit about where we've started vaccinating some of our staff. Vaccines in and of themselves do not prevent transmission. And, Dr. Taylor tells us on the other side of this peak that we are in right now, and we can't afford not to continue vigilance. And so even when people in more parts, Connecticut is third in the country in terms of the percent of our population that has been vaccinated so far, even when we start to get to that in the state, that doesn't mean we need to be relaxed in our mask wearing, hand hygiene, and social distancing, because you can still, even after having been vaccinated, transmit the virus to someone else. And so, we've had our first situation of a client saying to one of our staff members, I've been vaccinated, so I'm okay. I don't need to wear a mask. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. You really, really need to wear masks, insist that the person that you are interacting with wear a mask. And if they don't, your surgical mask with the face shield allows for additional protections.
Yeah. And about how many staff have already received the vaccine?
Yeah, so as we move into the vaccine piece of it, we know we started with our SolNet staff because they are considered in that kind of healthcare bucket in the big in the 1As. So about 200 of the staff members between the two SolNet campuses, plus some additional staff members who either because of other employment or other categories that they fit into have been vaccinated in some other sites. So we'll share some of that data with a little bit more detail in the coming weeks. But as we start to filter, they are now on the first round of the second doses. So we are starting to see some of our staff in the coming weeks get the second dose. So we're moving right along. We'll be able to share with you what percentage of our staff so far have agreed to take the vaccine. Again, it's going to be completely voluntary, and we're trying to share as much credible information as possible so staff can make informed decisions. And then also, Ken, as we move into 1B,
right, this is the big question.
This is the big question.
This is it.
Yeah, the essential designation that the Vaccine Advisory Board has placed on people in 1B has subcategories. And so we know that there are congregate settings where some of our kids are placed. So even some of our kids that are over the age of 16 may qualify for the kids that are in congregate settings in the community and of course in our SolNets. And then the definition of essential is being flushed out as well as it relates to state employees. We gave some big buckets of who within DCF are considered to be essential staff, and that's being refined and fine-tuned. And, every week, I feel like sometimes every so many days, the definitions get clearer and clearer for us. So as we know, you'll know. We're not, withholding anything from you all. We just want to make sure that we can rule in as much as possible without stepping ahead of the line of people who likely should be vaccinated before some of us. So we're really trying to find the right spot for us. And I think we're getting very, very close.
And as soon as we know anything definitive,
that's right,
staff will be notified. We won't necessarily even wait till our bi-weekly video. We will get that information.
Oh, no. Yeah, right. That's right. Because 2 weeks kind of feels like a lifetime in COVID years. So, yeah, if there's things that we need to let folks know in the interim, we certainly will. But, the state of Connecticut is moving right along, moving through that over 75 age group. And I think once that group kind of nears their finish, along with folks in congregate settings, they're kind of running parallel right now. They can probably start to schedule essential workers, which I think brings us into February, even though February starts tomorrow, so it's not that far away. But I think that we're gearing up the roster, so when we can hit go, we'll be all ready. We don't have to scramble at that time. But it's hard. You see what's happening out there in some of the other stakeholder groups, like with education and some of the other folks that are in communities trying to figure this all out. We're really trying to be as cautious about what information we extend until we know that it's the most accurate, because it changes so fluidly.
A lot of moving parts, but again, stay tuned. We're closer. We're closer than we were 2 weeks ago. Every day we get a little closer. So, Commissioner, anything else that we want to highlight for staff before we offer them the opportunity to turn off the videos? We then get into the statistical end of COVID.
No, just another thanks to our dream team of Jody, EJ, Aaron, Ryan, and Dr. Taylor. You're going to see a story about the three of them and the behind the scenes mechanics of really pulling off testing, tracing, and vaccine planning. The three of them have just been powerhouses behind the scenes to make sure DCF is positioned well. So as we head into the data, we'll see those of you who are not staying with us a couple of weeks from now. And for those of you who'd like to know the trends within the department, we're going to move into that segment right now.
So let me go ahead and pull up that other document, Commissioner. So we have some a couple statistical pieces. So we know stat-wise, 298 caregivers. So that's the TFC and the core and kin categories combined. 230 youth and 283 staff so far have tested positive. So this gives us the positivity by month And the second chart, according by month, according to staff. So what would you like to say a little bit about these numbers and the trends that we're seeing?
We know that in our contact tracing, there we have a very large staff. So our staff numbers are over 2,900. We get close to 3,000 staff members when you look at the total number of people we have across DCF. And so about 811, that number represents staff, kids, and foster parents. So when you look at the chart that we have on the screen right now, the blue represents our staff positives, the gray represents our foster homes, and then oh no, I just said that wrong. So the blue represents our staff positives, and then the gray and orange, I think, represents foster care. Kids are not on this one. So you see that our staff positives tend to trend a little bit higher in number, but not necessarily percentage of our foster parents. But you can see that it's kind of headed in the same direction. If you go to the next chart, it focuses really specifically on our staff positives. And one of the things that you'll see is that our trends mirror what it looks like in the general population. In Connecticut. You see the spike and the peak that happened in the spring. You saw the lull over the summer because of all the vigilance that happened. The transmission rate was relatively low. We saw a big bump right around the holiday time, and now hopefully we're headed down the other side of that peak. The caution right now you hear out there is because we have some other variants that are showing up that are more highly transmittable. And so you don't want to disrupt this downward trend because people get a little relaxed. I do want to say, and I should have said this before people jumped off, if they did, if staff got vaccinated someplace other than DCF, to let HR know, just so we can keep as accurate numbers as possible, because these positive trends, plus once we start to know more data on the vaccine, we'll tell the complete DCF story. But maybe I'll just put that in the memo. Sure. And so that, I think that gives us an idea of where we are in our contact tracing related to our staff members. I don't think we have any other visuals today, right?
No, but I think that's it. We can stop from sharing the screen there. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, a lot to celebrate with our spotlight, with extending our moratorium on youth discharges, some real good positive themes that we learned about from our contact tracing, some areas to consider, and then certainly the humbling statistics on what we see within our workforce and the children and families that we serve. Yep. But again, we want to emphasize what you just said. Our trends mirror the general public, and we need to stay vigilant. We need to continue doing what we are doing. Vaccines are on the way. We are confirming who, what, where, when, and why. A lot will happen, we believe, over the next 2 weeks as far as new, trends that we see and additional information about hopefully scheduling vaccines. So stay tuned, stay vigilant. We're here.
That's right. And, 10 months in, we want to continue to keep you up to date as much as possible on what we know. And, we're also into the legislative session. And a lot of what we've been doing so far is letting the legislative body just know what we've been up to over the last year and what we would like to see happen over the next year or so, and what they can expect from us. So more of that will be shared in the weeks to come, but stay tuned and tune in to any of those public hearings that involve children's issues, because we'll be there.
You bet. All right, Commissioner, have a great couple weeks.
Take care, Ken.
All right.